In the late 1980s, the English countryside became the stage for a modern mystery. Overnight, intricate geometric patterns were appearing in fields of wheat and barley, fueling a global obsession with alien visitors and UFOs. This era gave rise to seriology, a field of study where researchers proposed complex physical causes for the formations, ranging from atmospheric plasma vortexes and microwave radiation to fluctuations in the Earth's magnetic field. But the history of these formations extends centuries beyond the era of radar and satellite surveillance. When scattered points suddenly snap into a perfect circle, the human mind is conditioned to look for a designer. Seeing geometry in a chaotic landscape creates a psychological tension that seems to demand an architect. To understand these formations, we have to look at how previous generations used agricultural anomalies as a mirror, visualizing their gods, their fears, and their social hierarchies through the shapes they found in the dirt. In 1678, the English economy was defined by the harvest. The tension between wealthy landowners and the laborers who mowed their fields created a volatile socio-economic climate. A news pamphlet tells of a farmer who refused to pay a mower's fair wage, swearing the devil should harvest the field instead. That night, the field reportedly glowed with fire. By morning, the farmer found his oats neatly mowed in concentric rings, a feat of precision the pamphlet claimed no mortal man could achieve. This story was typical of 17th-century news pamphlets, which used unexplainable events to enforce religious norms. By framing a blazing comet or field oddity as a preternatural event, these texts turned the unknown into a direct moral warning, suggesting the physical world reflected God's judgment. The mowing devil functioned as a weapon of retributive peasant justice, a mythological tool designed to pressure the wealthy elite into meeting their neighborly obligations. Across Europe, the same search for agency centered on a different phenomenon. Perfectly round rings of lush mushrooms would appear overnight in pastures and forests. Folklore filled the gaps in knowledge. Germans spoke of Hexenringe, or witches' dancing grounds. The French feared circles guarded by giant toads, while Dutch legends claimed the rings marked where the devil churned his milk. These myths carried heavy penalties for trespassing. Stepping into a ring meant risking sudden death or madness, or being lured into a hypnotic dance with fairies that could last for years in the mortal realm. We now know this is the work of a single fungal colony. A web of mycelium grows radially outward from a central point. As the fungus exhausts the soil in the center, the living mushrooms are forced to the outer perimeter to find nutrients. In a medieval context, the language of magic provided a vital safety mechanism. These legends acted as a practical boundary, keeping people and livestock away from potentially toxic or crop-killing fungi. In the South African Zulu tradition, the interpretation of these anomalies shifted from fear to reverence. These circular depressions were known as Izishose Zamatango, the writings of the gods. Hai Sangoma Credo Mutwa, a traditional healer and custodian of Zulu history, described how these circles were viewed as a form of sacred communication. The Zulu saw the flattened crops as a message from compassionate star gods. Because the plants were pressed down without breaking, they were seen as a sign that the divine could guide the tribe without destroying their harvest. This belief led to multi-day celebrations. Farmers would leave their fields unfenced, welcoming the formations as a bridge between the community and the divine. In a culture rooted in ecological reciprocity, the geometric pattern wasn't a puzzle to be solved, but a gift to be honored. By the late 19th century, the rise of modern scientific observation began to compete with ancient folklore. In 1880, amateur scientist John Rand Capron submitted a letter to the journal Nature regarding a discovery near Guildford. Capron approached a patch of flattened wheat not as a moralist or a shaman, but as a technician documenting physical evidence. He noted the specific arrangement of prostrate stalks, forming a circular wall around a standing center. Based on these measurements, he proposed a rational hypothesis. The crops had been leveled by cyclonic wind action. Capron's letter shifted the discussion away from mythological agency and toward the measurable mechanics of the physical world. The physical forces at work in these fields, whether fungal growth, erratic winds, or human hands, have remained remarkably consistent throughout history. The human mind, however, is a meaning-making machine. We project our own era's preoccupations onto the landscape, turning a simple circular depression into a site of demonic labor, fairy magic, or alien contact. The enduring power of these patterns lies in their role as a mirror, reflecting the socioeconomic anxieties, spiritual beliefs, and scientific reach of those who find themselves standing at the edge of the circle. In 1996, a fractal pattern matching the Julia set stretched across 900 feet of the English countryside. 12 years later, an entirely new shape appeared, perfectly encoding the first 10 digits of pi. Anonymous creators executed these geometric equations in total darkness. They flattened thousands of plants without breaking the stalks and vanished before sunrise, leaving no footprints behind. This global phenomenon did not begin with advanced mathematics in a wheat field. It started in a murky Australian swamp in 1966. Tracing the path from these mathematical canvases back to their source leads to an event where the interpretation of a discovery became more significant than the physical evidence itself. On a January morning in Queensland, a farmer named George Pedley heard a sharp hiss. He reported seeing a saucer-shaped craft rise from Horseshoe Lagoon. When he waded into the swamp to investigate, he found a 30-foot circular nest of reeds swirled clockwise and floating on the water. Local police and scientists from the University of Queensland investigated. They concluded the floating nest was a natural byproduct of a willy-willy, an aggressive, localized dust devil that pressed the reeds down with a swirling funnel of air. The local press and the surrounding community rejected the meteorological evidence entirely. They preferred Pedley's initial assessment, and the story of the Tully saucer nest spread rapidly. The incident created an intellectual vacuum. By 1978, the Tully myth reached the rolling, isolated wheat fields of southern England. Here, the saucer nest narrative found a massive new landscape. Two friends, Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley, decided to fake a landing site. Their tools were primitive: a 4-foot wooden plank, a length of rope, and wire from a baseball cap to keep their lines perfectly straight. Over the next 13 years, researchers insisted that humans could not create such precise circles. In response, Bauer and Chorley added ladders, antennae, and complex pictograms to their designs, specifically to confound them. In 1991, the two men confessed. To prove it, they built a circle for journalists. A prominent crop circle researcher, Pat Delgado, was invited to inspect the site. He declared the formation authentic. Then he was informed it had been built hours earlier with wooden boards. The confession failed to kill the mythology. Instead, it democratized the practice. It triggered an arms race of copycat artists who were determined to outsmart the scientists and push the boundaries of nocturnal agriculture. Anonymous circle makers quickly abandoned simple shapes. The fields became staging grounds for executing complex mathematical theorems and binary data encodings. In 1974, scientists beamed a binary radio broadcast from the Arecibo Observatory toward a star cluster 25,000 light-years away. This compares the 1974 radio broadcast with a 2001 crop circle. The crop formation mirrored the 73 by 23 grid exactly, but creators introduced anomalies, inserting silicone in the atomic numbers and replacing the human figure with a bulbous-headed silhouette. This overhead schematic of the 2008 Barberry Castle formation shows how the geometric design splits perfectly into 10 equal 36-degree angular segments. By counting the segments bounded by radial jumps, moving outward, a sequence emerges. First, 3 segments, then 1 segment, then 4 segments. A small physical circle placed in the crops acts as a decimal point. Following the spiral to the edge spells out the irrational constant pi, 3.141592654. The appearance of these encodings signaled a shift. The phenomenon had become an anonymous global art movement that uses geometric perfection to test the limits of scientific deduction. Unable to accept that humans could execute such precision in the dark, the scientific community scrambled for alternative explanations. Meteorologist Terence Meaden proposed the existence of plasma vortexes, electrically charged whirlwinds capable of flattening crops into pristine shapes. Biophysicist W.C. Levingood published papers asserting that exploded nodes on the plant stalks were physical evidence of targeted microwave transient heating. Meanwhile, fringe researchers abandoned physics entirely. They attributed the formations to time travelers, undetectable Earth energy fields, and geographic alignments with ancient megalithic sites. This scramble for theories reveals a profound human discomfort with the unknown. When faced with a physical anomaly, our brains will construct almost any narrative to restore a sense of order. If we strip away the plasma vortexes and the extraterrestrial warnings, we are left with one verified truth: human intervention. The crop circle functions as an interdisciplinary canvas, where human creativity, vast agricultural landscapes, and mass psychology converge. The enduring power of these formations does not depend on how they were made. It relies on the collective underlying hope that we are not alone in the universe. Whether a circle is carved by an atmospheric anomaly, an extraterrestrial intelligence, or two retirees holding a wooden plank, it stands as a monument to humanity's relentless desire to believe the impossible is real.